In my hands, I've got the Srixon ZX5 and ZX7 Mark II drivers. We're going to put them to the test today. We're going to give you some numbers of what they're producing for me. We're also going to give you a little bit of information of what Srixon are saying about these drivers. And then at the end, I'm going to kind of summarize and give you an idea of who these drivers are going to work for. So to kick things off, I just want to say that the ZX previous model to these two now was kind of, Srixon really stepped it up a mark. They really got their products into pro shops and kind of got people confident enough to want to get fit and want to buy them. And the Mark II is actually a very similar model, but actually it's a little bit more refined, a little bit more detail has gone into these two models. So looking down at the ZX Mark II ranges here, and we have to look at the difference between the previous model to this one, and whereas you had the kind of glossy look on the previous model, you've actually got more of a matte look on this new Mark II model, which I really like. I'm a big fan of matte finishes anyway. And what you're going to see the difference between these two models and what I'm seeing now is that the ZX5 Mark II is just a bigger profile. When you look down at it, it's got a little bit more real estate, weight's brought back a little bit more forgiveness in this head. I'm expecting to see maybe a little bit more spin out of this particular model for control, whereas the number 7, that's a little bit smaller in its profile. Both the models being a 460cc driver, but when you look at the ZX7, it just looks a little bit smaller in its profile. That perimeter weighting maybe not as forgiving, weight being pushed closer to the face of the club, and ultimately giving us a little bit more ball speed with less spin. So titanium face on both of these drivers with 0.25 thinner in the middle and then 0.4 thicker in the outer. Again, the idea to try and maintain good ball speed across the face. It is a titanium face, and I'm getting that loud pop off the face of this driver, that sound of kind of power for a lot of people out there. But looking at the bottom of these two drivers, I have to say both very nice looking drivers and going to look really good on the shelf. But you can see the weight ports of both of these drivers. We've got the number 7 with 2 weight ports either side. Now, they've given me, as a standard in this, an 8 gram weight in the heel and a 4 gram weight in the toe, whereas in the ZX5 I've just got 1 weight port right at the back of the driver, which is an 8 gram weight pushed at the back there. What I would say, and I'm sure you can get kits that can enable you to move weight around, I've left it for this test in the heel, but ideally I would want the option to have a same weight in both sides to give me that. I just don't want to have a weight pushed in the toe or in the heel. I don't need that movability with this driver. I just want it set in one place. Now looking down at the ZX7, definitely a smaller profile when you look down. Almost feels like it's a little bit more rounded at the back of the driver. If we look down at the bottom of the driver, they both say the rebound frame, which is actually, you've had this in the previous model, but they've refined it slightly. And what it actually means is, as you strike that ball into the club face, it's going to go in, and then the outer perimeter of the driver is going to expand. Then as it shoots off the club face, just like a trampoline effect, it pings the ball out of the middle of the club, which ultimately gives you that little bit extra ball speed. Looking at the crown of these two drivers, again, you've heard it many times talked about taking weight out of the crown to maneuver it around the club head. Well, with the Srixon Mark II, we've got this kind of lattice framework inside the head, which enables you to take weight off the crown and push it around the club face a little bit more. And then last thoughts when it comes to the looks of the driver, I just like the both of them. I think they're both really good looking drivers, and I think for a lot of golfers out there, going to suit the eye for many of you. So looking at the numbers with these two drivers, and I've set them both into 8.5 in their loft. If we look at the ball speed, 153.1 mile an hour out of the ZX5 compared to 154.8 out of the ZX7, which is probably what I would expect to get. If we look at launch though, I've got 13.4 launch out of the ZX5 compared to 14.3 launch out of the ZX7. not what I expected. I was expecting to maybe get the ZX5 just popping up a little bit higher than what I would get out of the ZX7. But then if we look at the spin, we've got 2,487 revs on an average from the ZX5 compared to 2,519 revs out of the ZX7. I mean, there's really, at this moment in time, there's not a lot in it other than there's a little bit more ball speed out of the number 7. If we then go to the difference in heights, we've got 37 yards high out of the ZX5 compared to 40 yards high out of the ZX7. So just popping it out there higher with a bit more spin is just possibly going to stall this ball a little bit for me in this setting. 257 yards of a carry out of the number 5 compared to 259 yards carry out of the ZX7. So really not a massive amount different between these two drivers, not enough, I don't believe. If I look at the ZX7, I was probably swinging that one maybe 1 mile an hour, well, between half and 1 mile an hour faster than what I was swinging the ZX5. Sometimes when you go through these tests, you sort of jump around a little bit with your swing speed, but I just didn't want the spin out of, well, both of these models, certainly not in the number 7. I wanted that spin just to drop down, and I know that the ball speed that's coming off the club face of this driver is good. It's really, really positive, but I just wanted it to launch a little bit lower and I wanted it to spin a little bit lower. And if we could get that spin down, I think you'd have a club that could really compete when it comes to carry distance with other products on the market. Having said that, I think these products are going to work for so many golfers out there. People want control. Well, you get a little bit more backspin on the ball and you'll probably get a little bit more control out of the driver. So not probably the longest drivers on the market, but certainly going to find you're going to hit possibly a little bit more, or you're going to hit more fairways with them. And that's actually, well, I think that's just as important than bombing it out there another 5 to 10 yards longer. But I'd like to hear what you think. Are you somebody going to go out and test the Srixon ZX5, ZX7 Mark II? Or are you going to shy away from them? I'd like to hear down there in the comments. Don't forget, if you like what you're seeing from these videos, to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all again very soon.